consume it.
No, I reclaim my time.
Claim my time. I like that better.
Good evening, and welcome to the Chaska Human Rights Commission meeting of Thursday, October 28th, 2021. Welcome to all. We've each received the agenda, and we'll get to that as soon as Nate gives us the roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Spreadberry.
Present.
Commissioner White.
Present.
Commissioner Welvert.
Here.
Commissioner Haga.
Present.
Chair Carlson.
Here.
Absent tonight are Commissioners Hughes, Hubbard, and Sanderson.
We have an agenda that's been prepared and distributed to us. Are there any corrections, changes, deletions, comments? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Kelli. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jennifer. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes carried. We have a terrific guest tonight. I can't wait to find out a little bit more about Kelli Brenny. She's with the Diversity with Books program from Eastern Carver County Schools. And welcome, and I'd invite you to the podium, and your enthusiasm over the phone is pretty exciting, so I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you very much for that warm welcome. I'm also joined here by Jenna Cruz and Jay Jackson, in which case we will introduce ourselves in a moment. So the Diversity in Books project is actually through the Culture and Climate position, which we are kind of tacked on to special education and the equity team for Eastern Carver County Schools. So just to start us off by our good old Garrison Keeler, a book is a gift you can open again and again.
So true.
So I'm Kelli Brenny. This is actually my first year in the role of Climate and Culture Specialist for the district. Prior to that, I was a teacher, so this would have been my 23rd year teaching in Eastern Carver County Schools. And
I am Jade Jackson. I am new to the district in a newly position created just recently as the intercultural specialist, specifically to Indian education.
I'm Jenna Cruz, Chaska resident, 4 kids, 3 in district, and leader of ROAR.
so the Equity Department has an Equity Advisory Council, and on that council we have many teachers, local community members, parents, and also students. And so some of those members who are part of the Diversity in Books project are listed there below too, including Robin Francis, our Director of Equity, and Erica Merrick, our Achievement and Integration Lead Specialist.
Our EAC purpose and mission is, the purpose is to provide direction and leadership as well as serve as a lens to Eastern Carver County Schools in implementing change. The council will help develop broad ownership of the work to become a more welcoming, culturally competent, and equitable school district. And our mission is to ensure that all students and families feel valued, respected, and understood by co-creating more intentional and proactive strategies around diversity and inclusion.
So, are you the first one? Yeah. Okay, so did you know only 32% of Black 4th graders and 34% of Hispanic 4th graders are proficient in reading compared to 66% of white 4th graders. Minnesota now has the widest gap in reading scores between white and non-white students. And in the bottom of the comments, which you can't see, that is cited, of course. And so moving on with that, kind of why does that matter? Looking at bullet point number 2 there, 28%. Women make up half of the total U.S. college-educated workforce, but only 28% of the science and engineering workforce. So the cite here comes from an Edutopia article called Keeping Girls in STEM, 3 Barriers and 3 Solutions. And the irony is that girls perform just as well as boys in math from national test scores. However, one of the barriers cited in this article is building a math identity. Formative ideas about how or who mathematicians are and scientists are through subtle and covert or overt cultural messages. So the solution cited in the article is that teachers need to check their own biases, They need to help foster a growth mindset. And then also there needs to be brief targeted interventions in which students can learn that intelligence is not fixed. And one of the points that I would like to make for you here today is that classroom materials that show images of female mathematicians or scientists to shift perception. Studies reveal that Black girls especially do not view themselves as mathematicians. So going back to the first 32%, it is our belief that the more that students can see themselves in the classroom, see teachers that look like themselves, print materials, educational materials that represent their culture and their background, the more that they'll feel empowered to be learners.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Oh, it's in front of
yeah,
you.
I was like, where are you guys seeing this? Okay. So the next bullet point is 30% of the U.S. population and about 50% of K through 12 students identify as being a racial minority. And only, unfortunately, about 10% of children's books published from 94 to 2014 were by or about people of color. So it's pretty staggering. And then when we talk about multicultural content of these books, so outside of the white normative experience, that's only represented at 13% in children's literature. So there's a pretty big gap. And then if we pop, that's when I go to that.
Oh, yes, here.
Thanks. So this is kind of a widely shared infographic that shows like how this might feel to a child when they're in school. So we have 50% of children's books, even though we're now, in the U.S. at an equal 50% identify to a racial minority and 50% white. 50% of the books are about white kids, and as you can see in the picture, like high glass ceilings. They're often portrayed in a successful manner in the books, and then you just move down the line. There are more books written about animals, 27%, than all of the racial minorities combined. So you can imagine how that would make a child feel. Like there's more importance put on an animal versus their self, and it just goes down the line of kind of breaking it down as far as race. But one thing you notice is just the reflection in the mirrors and how it gets to that 1% of American Indian, and your mirror is this small. You're not seen in the classroom and reflected in the books. So that's a big part of why Roar did the book drive was, myself having a biracial family. My kids weren't bringing home any books that were relevant to our family experience. And once we did, my daughter, one night she just lit up with that girl looks like me, and it was like one of those leave the room cry moment as a mom. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree that 100% of students and people benefit. A survey from the American Psychological Association found that feeling valued was linked to better physical and mental health, as well as higher levels of engagement, satisfaction, and motivation. So what is already happening with the Diversity in Books project?
Yeah, so like I said, Roar did a book drive last spring. We raised about close to $3,000, and we purchased books and donated them to Eastern Carver County schools. I think it was around 130 books in total, ranging from the pre-K, elementary to high school books, and they were divvied up. And I've gotten a lot of great notes from some of the media specialists about how impactful, and they're just so grateful that this is on the radar of the community because, funding not keeping up, on a state and federal level, sometimes this has to fall on the community to help out and get these, resources to the school.
Yes, and I'm happy to say that over 30 community volunteers have already agreed to participate to come and read to our elementary classrooms, including Commissioner Haga and Hughes. You are all have an open invitation as well. We also have mayors signed up, all of the city managers in Eastern Carver County, the girls basketball coaches for the Chaska girls basketball team, and she said that she'd bring the players out. And of course, we included the Chanhassen girls basketball team as well, and the Chaska football team, and they're all very excited to come and read great. I met with some of them during a WIN group at Chaska High School yesterday. Also the National Honor Society and some of the culture clubs there at the high schools. Local police officers, firefighters, Officer Gomez and Officer Baker and Ryan Siebert, and some local business owners as well. Sri Grant from Mathnasium and Mr. Venelin from the Indian Bar and Grill. And local librarians have been contacted, and some of them are reaching out, and then also, of course, community members. So Victoria, on November 3rd and 4th, will be our first school to pilot this guest reader initiative. We have 12 teachers who will be opening up their classrooms to 12 different guests, or actually, pardon me, 6 different guests. They're reading to 2 classrooms at a time using the literature that was donated by Roar. So we're really excited for that. And then a little bit about teacher partnerships. We have been reached out to, when I say we, the equity department in the EAC, for funding about books. And I'm excited to say that the Chaska High School English department really looked at the book that they've been using for years, Of Mice and Men by Steinbeck, and it uses the N-word quite often. And they really reflected on the harm that it was causing to students having teachers not of color present this material in the classroom. And so we were very happy to partner with them and vet 6 other books, chapter books, and the one being chosen is Poet X to replace that literature. And so funding from that comes from teaching and learning, which was about $4,000. And then also some of the elementary media specialists are piloting a program, and they've asked teaching and learning to fund 50 copies each of 4 very diverse chapter books that they're going to do book clubs around and to foster conversations around race. And so that total came to about $3,000. And then Jade has been approached often as well.
Yes, I've been approached for books on diversity having to do with Native American culture, so that has been kind of nice as well, so, yeah.
Yeah, and we would just love the opportunity when people are asking to be able to say yes,
Yeah.
and we're there for you, so. Oh, and then the position for community ed is in transition right now, but we are working closely with community ed and have conversations in the works about helping to sponsor their Hooked on Books project. And also the ICSs, the intercultural specialists for the district, have some amazing great connections with Maria.
Yes, with a local artist out of St. Paul, I believe is where she's from, who illustrates books for a Native author that is based out of Burnsville. So we are hoping to bring her in, possibly for Hooked on Books.
That's great.
Okay, in your packet of information there, I did cite 3 articles, all that come from the saying that children and the need to teach children diverse literature is like mirrors and windows. So if you wanted to share number 1.
Humanity emphasizes similarities. Kids are no matter how different their backgrounds. Kids are kids no matter how different their backgrounds are.
Mirrors allow you to see yourself represented in a story and explore your identity.
Windows bring visibility to cultures different from your own.
Curiosity creates openings for discussion about what's happening in current events.
And for society, reading builds community, unity, and inclusivity. So now for the ask. So here's why we're here today. Some of our hopes and our goals.
All right. So obviously, one of the biggest things is to increase the inventory of books, of diverse books and literature to foster that inclusion and student voice. And then to ensure that all school sites have equal access to diverse books. That's another thing that when I was working with some of the media specialists during the book drive, it's not equal. And maybe it's because of, one person, there wasn't a good system with how to keep track of like how many diverse books we have and the content. And so I think like that stemmed the media specialists to really, work, I'm sure with you too now to really figure out what areas are needed most. Increase the community partnership of guest readers in schools in ECC. And the great thing about the guest readers reading, a book that might not be part of their culture, it really brings in that inclusiveness and the ability to connect with people outside of your maybe normal family situation. And then 4, use literature to increase our community's capacity for acceptance and dignity for all.
So Emily Stiles is the one who founded she wrote a curriculum guide years ago about children as mirrors and reflections through windows. So children's books can act as mirrors to reflect the reader's own lives, but also as windows so readers can learn about, understand, and appreciate the lives of others. And then the last one is a quote that's also in your packet too, that really speaks to the need for these diverse books. And so, any questions or comments?
Can you tell me the name of that book at the high school that they'll be using again?
Yes, so, and I'm kicking myself because she's one of my favorite authors, and I can't remember her name.
Amanda, was it?
It's not Amanda
No.
Gorman, Poet X, by, going to my, and of course it's not coming up, so, but Poet X, and so it's
Elizabeth, I'm just
Acevedo.
looking on Google here.
Yeah,
Okay,
Elizabeth
yeah.
Acevedo.
There we
By
go.
the way, she does amazing talk with Brenny Brown, if you listen to her podcast also. Yeah, so she's contemporary. All of the 6 books that we vetted were from African-American authors. And told in a perspective, also one thing that we're looking for in children's literature is, yes, they might have brown and black students in it, Asian students in it, but what is the context that they're having these students be in it? Or even LGBTQ. Like, we don't want it to necessarily be, this is a book about 2 moms. We'd love it for it to be a book where we just see 2 moms and they're doing everyday ordinary things. And same thing with multicultural books too. It doesn't always have to be, let's talk about Asians today, but just seeing Asians as leaders, or seeing Indian education and seeing African American leaders too.
That's one of the big barriers too, is not just schools being able to get these books in, but they're just not being published. So authors of color just don't get published at the same rate as white authors. So the inventory that's out there is much smaller. So that's a big issue on that end. And then, yeah, like you said, the books that are published tend to focus on, like, you know, if it's a book about Black struggle, those are, you know, you can find a plethora of those. But just having, like you said, children in the books living normal lives, that's a big gap in there. But they're out there,
Yeah.
which is why we're here.
So I feel like I'm behind since 2 of our commissioners have already volunteered to read, but how would we enlist a volunteer to read? I didn't see any of that content.
Yes, I did just go on your website. This was about early September, and I submitted an email to the commission, but Sarah reached out to me graciously, and I work with, obviously, Mrs. Haga at the district office, so there's a connection there as well.
Sure, yeah, I think I must have overlooked that bit, but now I'm regretting it.
But
It's not too late. I understand.
Never too late, yeah. And we're
Go back and
definitely
catch
trying
up.
to grow the program too. As of now, it's all at the elementary schools,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's also just as impactful and important to be at the middle schools and high schools as
Sure.
well.
In your handout, on page 2, my top 10 picks for a diverse community read.
I didn't get that yet.
Okay.
Yes,
Those are recommended readings for adults, or
those are, that is children's literature,
that is all children?
yes.
Okay. But, as we talked briefly before the meeting, you have a long list of desired books. How would the books be distributed? And perhaps War can explain how they did it. Are they divided by the number of schools? Do they go, well,
I can say how we.
Yeah,
So,
please.
Julia Berry was
Was me.
her before, so she left. But I was working with her, and we connected with some media specialists, and there was feedback given based on what they gave us. So there was a big need at East Union for some diverse books. Victoria was another one. But all of the schools got books, but yeah, they did highlight which schools were really lacking.
okay.
Yes, and then I was mentioning to Commissioner Carlson that all of the schools in Eastern Carver County use a search engine called Destiny Quest. And so for myself, vetting different titles that we would want in our schools, I did check that they aren't currently in circulation, or they aren't in all of our buildings. For example, one book that is, it's called Justice leading the way, and her name is actually Justice, but she talks about how even as a child, she can make changes in equality, and that book is only in one of our elementary school libraries, and it should be in all. And I do want to say that we greatly respect the time and the money that goes towards these books. And so part of the vetting process would be done by the EAC. And we do have a tool for vetting books so that it's not just any book that we want.
I understand.
So what is the ask?
Currently, thank you. So currently looking at the list that we've compiled so far, and we would love to support independent book owners. So their prices are a little bit higher, obviously. Using Amazon for the current book ask, the total is $599.51. But that is just one copy of each book. And then most of these books are children's literature focused at grades 3 through 5. And there is some high school material and middle school material. So this is just, it's hard to kind of put that wish list out there when there isn't a ability to say, and you'll get those books. And so we definitely would like to open it up and have more voice from the middle school and the high school.
Okay.
In your opinion, is it better to have one copy of many books or many copies of few books to circulate more frequently across the schools? I know you mentioned that you want books in every school, but.
Yeah, I will say, I can't speak for the media specialists in our district, but just knowing, even for the reading happening at Victoria Elementary School, when Roar donated those awesome books, one book was given to each site. And so on the sign-up, I have several readers who want to use the copy, just ask. And so then I am going to 4 different other elementary schools to check out that book. So I think we would just be happy if we could have one in each school, because then at least that gives us 7 copies of an elementary book, for example. Yes,
Where's the list? I'm lost a little bit. Where's the list of books?
I have that, but I'm happy to send it. Well, I'm happy to send it
Okay.
over.
And then the total for the list is 500, you said, or 500 per book?
No, it's $599.51 total for about probably 60 titles.
Okay.
No, that's not accurate. Less than that, 30-ish titles. But again, that's just for one copy each, and that is using Amazon and not a small-owned business.
So it's just $5.99 for 30 books that are going to be divided up among how many schools? How many school libraries?
That is the total. Ideally, we would like that to be times 6.
So you're looking for 180 titles, right? About
Yes.
3,600,
Yeah.
so you need about $3,600 or thereabouts, plus tax, so.
Yes. And in full transparency, this is not
180.
the full list. We would definitely like some more time for the EAC members to look for high school material and middle school material, which then, of course, we will be very negotiable in some of our elementary titles.
So if the commission approved a certain dollar amount, then would we turn it over to the EAC to decide how it was distributed then between the schools and which books it would cover?
How did that happen last time?
Yeah, so when we did our book drive, Roar purchased all the books, but I would say that's probably open for discussion. If you would want to do that legwork. It is a lot of work researching all the titles and stuff, and trying to vet, like you said, is this an appropriate book to go into the schools? But you already have a list to go off of.
Yeah.
Are there other organizations you're approaching, like Lions or Rotary or?
Yeah, actually in January, we couldn't squeeze it in this year, but the Lions, I'm going to be presenting to them as well. And then Roar is going to do this annual book drive, so that'll be in the spring again.
And I did write a foundational grant through Eastern Carver. I wrote a foundational grant through Eastern Carver County Schools. But
Through
have
the
not,
112 Foundation?
yes, but I've not heard back yet.
So if someone wanted to donate, how would we donate?
I think that is a wonderful question, and I would need to actually talk with the equity department because this kind of idea is so new. The gifting from Roar just came as a one-time gift, so I'd have to look at that. Also, we were approached by Thrivent, and they're looking to be able to bring attention our way for donors so that when they bank with Thrivent, they're able to make, I believe it's like a $200 donation to any nonprofit of their choice. We're not technically a nonprofit, but working in some way that they, we have a meeting set up with one of the members of Thrivent to discuss options there.
Could you get us some information on how we could donate, if that's what we would like to do?
And are you
Or
speaking
email it.
more to like individual books, like if community members approach like ways to just support like $50 here or $20 there?
Sure. Anyone watching us right now, any way we can get, I mean, I'm trying to help you out. So anyone who wants to donate whatever, whether it's buying one book or, it might be good to have all the books, I know you have a list, but listed what the price is, so I
Yes.
might see whatever, I want to buy that book or 2 or 5 of those books.
I love that idea, and I will be happy to follow back with that.
I think you raise a good point on the individual donation and helping to maybe amplify that opportunity. I think there's also the opportunity as a commission to think about, your budget. Couple questions that I have on that piece, if that's something that we're wanting to entertain, and maybe that decision doesn't get made at this moment, but something to discuss, would be, is that something that you're receptive to? I'm guessing so. I think that's the nature of your ask.
Yes.
The other couple questions I would have then, because I could see this coming, so to prepare me to be able to answer is, are there any other cities that are being approached to participate in this way? And then the other would be, if the Chaska Human Rights Commission decides to make a contribution, do those books end up going to Chaska schools, or is it a district-wide thing? And I don't know that there's a right answer there. I'm just trying to understand how that would work.
Yeah, so the books would be dispersed, I mean, I don't want to talk for you.
Yeah,
but
no.
to all the schools, even though it's in Chaska, but, I would say we're a family of a district, with all, and I don't think any other communities have a human rights commission.
But they do have budgets.
Yes.
Would you be opposed to the direction that the donation from Chaska be used for schools within the city? Because I do think like we should be responsible to the dollars of the city going to city resources.
Understood, and I feel like we would not be opposed.
Great.
It's a little tricky. I think, we can also recognize that there are kids from Chaska who go to, I know Carver Elementary School is a big recipient of Chaska students, and, all that kind of stuff, but, something to think through.
Yep. Yeah, good question.
Any other questions of our presenters this evening?
What's the timeline,
Um,
an ideal timeline?
Well, we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop the work. We'll keep driving forward with creating this partnership with the community. So ideally, as we try to broaden this project, I would say the timeline would be spring of this year so that we could get those books cataloged, organized, and know that they're there to create a bigger program next year.
So spring of 2022, and you get them all ready to go for fall of 2022, right?
If those funds came sooner, would that be a problem?
That would not be a problem.
No.
Yes, we have several members from the EAC just ready to go to help out and help distribute the books, help to get the books, help to first vet the books. So.
Questions? Would the commission like to think about supporting this program? Or would you like for us to discuss it under 6D in program or 7 new business?
I would think we would table its new business, but
Excellent. We will.
Great.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you so much for being here. And I would like to say, just personally, thank you for your enthusiasm. Each of you, it's so great to make a phone call, get a response, particularly from the school these days, sorry. And, and then know that there's someone who's really excited about partnering. So thank you so much to each of you. Thank you for the ROAR organization for making the first step in getting these books into our children's hands. So we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome,
much.
and you're welcome to stay throughout the balance of our meeting.
Before you head out, one other note, Kelly, I'd like to connect with you. I don't know, we've got a number of different initiatives. One of them is Chaska Cares, which is something that, we've tried to get kind of materialized through COVID, but we're trying to continue that. It's been a way for city staff to really connect with community initiatives. There may be an opportunity there to get staff, and I know it sounds like there are a number of staff with the city that are already serving as readers, but maybe we can perpetuate that a little bit. So I think it'd be good if maybe you and I can connect.
Yes, I would love that, Nate.
Outside of this
Both
meeting.
Carlson and Haga have my contact information.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along into our agenda. We have the minutes from September 23rd, 2021. Are there any changes, deletions that need to be noted?
I noticed that it said that our meeting was on Zoom last month, and I believe we were all in person.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You're right. Look at that. Eagle eye.
Yes.
It was the all caps that caught my eye.
Anything else? Then may I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 23rd?
I will move to approve the minutes as amended.
Excellent, thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes carried. The treasurer's report. Nate, what's new in our money department?
Oh, shoot. I brought up the wrong agenda on my computer. Hold on, I'm flipping to it. The short answer is there is nothing new to report. So we still do have that $665 outlay out there that has not been paid. It's in process.
Okay,
I have a higher level of confidence this month that it will be done by November's meeting than I did last month when I reported the same thing. So I think that will happen, and you will see that come out of the balance. But we do have a total balance of $1,290. I think for the sake of discussion tonight, I'm anticipating maybe there's a budget expenditure discussion related to the visitor presentation, so we would want to subtract that $665 from the total as far as what's available to spend.
So for the people among us who don't do math, what is that?
625.
625?
There you go. I knew it was six
I was a
something.
liberal arts major.
Thank you, Nate. For the record, let's make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Seth, seconded by,
I'll second.
thank you, Martin. Any further discussion? If not,
Oh, I have a question,
Oh.
though. Do we,
good.
well, this is for Nate, so you don't have to do math.
Me, by the way. It wasn't her.
Oh. I just was wondering about when we do the plaque for the MLK
Yeah.
Human Rights Award, what's the cost of that? I don't see it for last year.
That may have, the way that that timed out, it may have ended up being in the 2020 budget or something like that. Maybe we can time it to fit the 21 or the 22 budget, depending on how you guys want to slice it and dice
Do
it.
you remember about how much it is, so we can look at the numbers for
I
when
don't
we make
remember.
other
Let me-
decisions?
I can pull that up, but
Okay,
I don't
thank
know
you.
off the top of my head right now. I can pull that up while we're talking now.
Okay, so I think we had a motion by Seth, seconded by Martin, to approve the treasurer's report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Committee updates. Budget. Well, there really isn't anything to report on, other than it's sitting at city council to be considered in their normal process. River City Days, we ordered the fans.
Ordered the fans, correct. Looks like we also tabled the discussion on any other swag, so
We did.
I'm sorry, I was out last month. I had knee surgery 2 days prior, and I wasn't really up for it. So I apologize that I wasn't here. But looking at the minutes, it looks like we had a couple ideas floating around. So when we think about the $625 budget that we have remaining for 2021, in addition to the plaque, we have to decide whether we want to commit more resources to additional River City Days goodies besides the fans.
This year.
This year, correct.
What is the group's thoughts on this?
I know 2 months ago, Nate had presented a projected budget for 2022. I don't believe River City Days material was in there, but, you know, I'm no accountant. I thought that budget might have looked a little fat, though. We might be able to squeeze a couple pennies out of there. So if we find a good cause, I wouldn't be opposed to pushing out River City Days giveaways purchases to a more timely arrival like next year. But, you know, it's open for discussion.
Anyone's thoughts?
I would agree next year would make sense. If we're spending for the year that we're in, that seems to make more sense to me in my mind.
I don't have a comment. I'm okay with waiting until next year to buy.
I do think we should probably order or make a decision early in the year, so we don't run into things not arriving in time like we did a couple of years ago.
I'm sure it's going to be worse for next year.
Are the fans actually here? Nate, do you know?
The fans have not yet arrived.
Okay.
But, yeah. The payment will occur on this
Right.
budget, so
Yeah.
whether or not they arrive this year or not. is a
Hopefully
separate
by
question.
July they'll get here.
By July, yeah. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Supply chain issues everywhere.
And Commissioner Hubbard, you suggested the sport flyer. Was that like the Frisbee disc type thing, or is that, I can't remember what the sport
I
flyer
don't
was.
remember either. I don't remember.
Hey,
It
you
might
put it,
been
it's
a-
in the minutes. You
Like
backed
a,
this.
like a football or something
Oh,
along
even
those
more fun.
lines. Is that, am I right? Like a football with a tail on it, maybe?
That was an option presented, yeah.
I think that would have been the sport.
All right. Did we have an approximate cost for any of those giveaways that we had discussed last month?
No, but we had some excellent copies.
Yes, I know there were costs associated, like unit costs and that kind of
I
thing.
think that it was in the agenda packet though,
Okay.
last time that you
Yep.
could look up.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. See, again, I apologize for making you guys have to do this twice.
It left quite an impression on us last month, you can tell.
Well, great. In that case, I don't think River City Days has much else to go on. Commissioner Hubbard, do you agree?
Well, I'm sorry.
There's not much else for River City Days to discuss?
No,
All right.
no, I think it's, no.
Great. Thank you. The MLK, I could have sworn I brought the minutes of our meeting tonight for Nate to copy. And I may have. I had an unfortunate accident in my car when things kind of spilled from my seat onto the floor. And I'm afraid my copy might be there. But basically, we've met. Oh, Jen, would you like to give us an update on the MLK committee?
Well, I did not bring my notes, my official notes either, but I have some chicken scratch here, so
Great.
we'll get this going. We did meet on the 13th of October, and it was Commissioner Carlson, myself, Kevin Wright, and Aaron Link, and from the Parks and Rec Department. We've just continued to talk about ideas, really started planning out who we're going to connect with at the different schools, mostly going through personal connections that we know people at different schools to ask about if they're interested in involvement with either art projects or the video piece like we did last year, asking students, you know, what Dr. King's dream meant to them or how it plays out in our community. We've talked about connecting with the high school to see if we can get some line drawings from students so we can create coloring pages or a coloring book for the younger folks or the older folks that need something to do while they're listening to speakers at the event. Trying to think what else we talked. Oh, we're going to connect with the speech team again to ask about some speakers for excerpts, and Aaron is going to connect with the Arts Consortium of Carver County about musicians. This year, we had some great musicians that we hadn't been exposed to before last year. We're going to see if there's some interest in that again. And I think that the thing we decided on too, I only have part of the quote written down here right now, but one of the things we're going to focus on for both the video and artwork from students is to focus on the quote that is, if I cannot do great things, I can do small things greatly, or something to that effect, and how that plays out in their own lives and what they're doing. That's a great thing, whether it's a big thing or a small thing. So, do you have something to add?
The only other thought I wanted to share with the group is I reached out to Darren Noble. He is the executive director of the Southwest Chamber of Commerce. And I asked the chamber if they would consider partnership with us in bringing this program forward in January. He indicated that the chamber, as you can well imagine, many of its members have suffered greatly during COVID, and that a lot of financial activities are curtailed because of that. I interpreted that to say the chamber will probably not support us with any financial donations, but he did seem to be interested in perhaps helping us with printing costs, particularly if we do proceed with a coloring book, which Kevin was going to get some prices on. And certainly he would like to be part of the group that would be present at MLK Day. I explained to him he was not familiar with why the chamber had participated, and so I kind of filled him in a little bit on the previous arrangements that we had with the chamber. But again, finances are going to be limited, and I would say at the minimum, perhaps we could get some printing costs offset by the chamber. He did acknowledge that he had spoken to Nate about supporting various programs in the city, but again, the chamber was hurting.
They supported, they didn't contribute financially last year, did they?
They did not.
I was gonna say, I don't remember
They
that.
have not
as a-
historically.
Yeah,
not
I didn't think
financially.
that they were a financial supporter in the past.
They purchased fruit trays one year. They purchased juice another year, or maybe it was fruit and juice, I've forgotten what. But, no, they really haven't been, but out
So
of consideration,
functioning,
I thought we should reach back out to them.
One,
That's good to know, though, that maybe the printing costs could be helped out with, somewhere along the line, because when we're thinking about these coloring sheets and stuff, that isn't necessarily something we had in our initial budget.
Right.
And we have, as a commission, we've approved a certain dollar amount to kind of cover the main things that we want at this year's event. So, a little extra help with printing could really bring something else to the mix then.
Sure.
one update I can give is that I have been in communication with Principal Kleinsasser at La Academia. So they had a couple students last year who contributed some videos about what MLK's dream meant to them. And so I know they are interested in sort of putting some thoughts together on how they may do something similar this year to contribute some videos. And I think it would really be concentrated on sounds like their 5th grade students to put some videos together to contribute in that way. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I would love to help. I'm not formally on the committee this year, but I mean, we have 2 other elementary schools in Chaska, and I think both Clover and Jonathan would probably be interested in supporting. So I would love to help facilitate that. I just need a charge from that committee to do so.
One thing that we did determine in committee is that we will not be utilizing music departments from the high school and/or middle schools, but instead relying on our Arts Consortium connection. It just seems too difficult to connect with folks in those departments at the schools right now.
Yeah, at least for this year.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I think it's great to have different people represented.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the MLK Award?
Chaska Human Rights Award is
I'm
an
sorry.
And I just read it, so that's why I said that. It's an annual award that will recognize a individual or a group or organization in Chaska that is advancing human rights and living out Dr. King's dream in some way, contributing to our community and making a difference. And nominations can come from anyone in the city or from the Human Rights Commission. And then is it November or December that we vote on that name?
I would recommend that this commission take that up at the November meeting next month. And I think between now and then, I can work with Kevin, it'll be mostly Kevin, to try and promote and get out. Commissioner Haley was shaking her head no.
The
Well,
deadline
I'm
to
not-
submit applications is Friday, December 10th, 2021.
Oh, is that what we said?
Yes.
So we will
Well,
vote at the
so-
December meeting.
I guess we have to do it at the December meeting. The reason I was thinking November, and I guess maybe we've had this discussion before, which is why we landed on December, but is that with MLK Day being January 17th, having enough time to get the plaque created and connect with the recipient, holidays in between, and et cetera. But maybe the cat's out of the bag and we don't have any.
I don't
discretion
know
there.
that we've done any, I don't think I've seen any substantial promotion of it. So if we wanted to tighten that up, but that does mean that it's really only a couple of weeks for people to submit if that's
Right.
the direction we wanted to go.
I think, I spoke with Kevin earlier, or late last week, and I think he was trying to put together, and this was also at the MLK meeting, put together a quick update on the nomination process, but I did not check Facebook today, so I don't know if there's been anything posted yet. So I think we should keep it December, because otherwise it's a very short turnaround for getting nominations in.
Do we have a formal meeting date in December? I'm just trying to-
Yes.
I believe we do.
We do, it would be December 16th, which does give about a month. We worked with Les Dahlberg in the past, and he's a pretty responsive guy. He's done a great job. So we can do that again. I think it is doable.
And then do we just have a work session that night?
I think unless if there's, other critical business that we need to take up, needing a vote or something like that, yeah, we would just keep it to a work session to make that decision. Yep.
The plaque is pretty standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
could probably order that and then just have it ready to be engraved. Okay.
Yep. I thought I had another point to make, but maybe I didn't. Seems like a good plan. Well, one thing that I do typically remind the commission is that, and I will work with Kevin and we will get some promotion out and try to solicit nominations from the community. Our historic experience has been, except for I think maybe 2 years that I've been involved with this anyway, of my 5 or 6 now, is that typically the nominations have come from the Human Rights Commission itself. That's just how it has played out, for better or for worse. So I would just suggest that if you have people in mind, that's an okay thing for you to bring those forward during that work session, and be thinking of nominations yourself. Also, I think to be encouraging your contacts to submit nominations is probably, in my experience, the most successful way of getting participation is that, person-to-person contact and encouragement, more so than what we're able to achieve just using our sort of social media and less direct options. We'll use those and hopefully we get some success, but I think that direct solicitation is often more successful. So, things to think about.
I think too, also, when commissioners are thinking about nominees, it's helpful if I fill out a nomination form to bring to the meeting or to submit to Nate to distribute at the meeting, so we have similar things to compare. Sometimes something comes to mind right when you're at the meeting, but it is nice to kind of have the same format for most of the nominees when we're looking at them, comparing them.
One other point. I was able to find what we spent for the 2020, no, this year's award, it would have been the 2021, well, it would have been the 2020 award awarded at the 2021 MLK. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Long story short, it was $75. So as we're thinking through budget, that's the number.
Okay, great. Program. Oh, I think I'm programmed. Program. Well, we had a very good program tonight. I do not have any guest speakers lined up for our November meeting or our December meeting, which we have just determined we're going to have a work session. So we have one remaining meeting left where we have the opportunity to hear from or share in work that an organization or individual is doing in our community. Does anyone have any suggestions for reaching out to anyone?
I am wondering, and maybe this is under new business, how your conversation with the American Indian Parent Advisory went, and if there might be anybody from that group that would come and speak to us in November, given that it is Indigenous Peoples Month.
And I had planned to share that under new
I
business.
figured.
But I guess I could talk about it now, if it's okay. I mean, we don't want to,
Mess with the agenda. I don't want to mess with the flow, but I think, I'm wondering if there's anybody from that group that might be willing to come and talk about their work and how ways that we might.
that's an excellent possibility.
Okay?
Does anybody else have any other suggestions for program options for November? Okay. We might go with yours then, Kelli.
I really like that idea, so, and I
Excellent.
had no others in mind.
Empathetic response. It
Which
falls
is-
on yours.
Yeah, which we haven't had much activity, which I hope doesn't demonstrate a lack of empathy, but rather a lack of activity to respond to. So that's it for this month.
Okay. Webpage. I think I'm the last remaining member of that committee, too. Yeah. Well, Kevin is working on things. How's that for a response?
Yep.
Always good. Okay, next up is new business. Yay! We get to talk about several things. One is the American Indian Parent Advocacy Group that I met with in September. And I offered the opportunity to partner with that group of individuals and family members that are in the district. I think that they were trying at that point in time in the school calendar to get programs off the ground and really didn't have any specific thoughts as to what or how that relationship would look like. But they were certainly open to and welcomed our interest in their group. In terms of representatives that would come from that group to talk with us, we met one of the individuals tonight, Ms. Campbell. She is an intercultural specialist that primarily works with the American Indian families in the school district. And of course, Gordon, not Francis Gordon.
Robin Francis.
Robin Francis Gordon.
Nope, just Robin Francis.
Okay, fine. It was another part, okay, Robin Francis. So certainly, I think that they'd be more than happy to come back and talk with us. They did mention some sort of activity during the month of November, but they were not clear as to what that activity would be. So it's a possibility. I can certainly explore it, but I'm not sure what their activity or what they would say.
I am also happy to explore it if you'd like me to do that, since you've been apparently doing all of the committee work the last month.
Is there anyone else who would like to explore these things with Kelli? Kelli, thank you for volunteering.
Yes, ma'am.
Another new item of business that I wanted to share with you was I had the opportunity to go to the Human Rights and Diversity Commission meeting on Tuesday evening in Eden Prairie. The Eden Prairie city staff and members of the Human Rights and Diversity Commission have just completed a race equity initiative. And so on Tuesday night, they presented the findings of that report to all of the city department heads. It was a big room, and they were all there, along with all members of the city council And the audience, there was great audience, not participation, but attendance. It was very interesting that they focused on emergency responses, the facilities, recruiting and hiring, the connections to their community, community exposures, and developing future leaders. It really reminded me, particularly in that last category, how important it's been to have Sienna on our board this year as a student representative. So if by chance the year comes to an end and we forget to say thank you, Sienna, for being with us.
I'm happy to be here.
But it was very informative, and their city representative will be forwarding a copy to you, Nate. And I thought for just historical, or not historical, but for reference points, we might want to take a look at that in the 2022 year.
Mm-hmm.
They've done some exciting things, and their city council is posed to adopt this initiative study at their December meeting. So it will be activities and action in Eden Prairie in the next year. So very interesting. Also under new business is our request from the Diversity with Books program tonight for some dollars spent in conjunction with purchasing of books. How do you feel about their proposal? And is this something that the commission would like to support?
I think that this is a wonderful initiative that they've started already, and when you were asking about the timeline, I was excited to hear that the work's not going to quit. I mean, this is something that is just, I feel like it needs to become ingrained in, you know, all the schools in our district. I think this is something that aligns just perfectly with the Human Rights Commission too, and that we can show our support not only for Chaska, but for just, you know, young people in our community, the wider community. I understand there's some trickiness with the city dollars going to a 4-city school district, and so that's something we'll have to figure out. But I would support and recommend that we offer some of our budget to this project.
Yeah, following up on that, when you think about their purpose and our purpose, it's tough to see a greater overlap as far as, you know, promotion of diversity and equity in our community, or human rights, excuse me, in our community. I don't want to put their mission in front of ours, right? Promotion of human rights and education of human rights in our community. I think there's great alignment there, to the point of if we designate our funds to be used for schools in the city of Chaska, well, then they'll probably just take the other funds they receive and place those books elsewhere. So I think, you know, it would be net about the same would be my expectation, right? Because they want to make their distribution equal. But, I mean, if we have budget means, it doesn't seem that we're going to find a cause more aligned, especially in October, for the excess budget we have this year.
I agree with all of you. I think we should support it. I don't know if I think we should support it, whether or not we give it money, give the program money or not, I don't know. My thought on, doesn't matter if it goes to Chaska. I realize it's Chaska dollars should go to Chaska people, but what are we trying to do? We're trying to change the minds of people within the area. So all our cities, we drive across the border every day. These kids see each other every day, so you just give Chaska these books. But what if they don't raise money for the other cities? So I'm just throwing those 2 cents out there. That my thought, my wish would be if we donate, there's no restriction but to buy these books and then allow them to distribute how they see fit. That way everyone has access, or maybe hopefully equal access to these books instead of just the children of Chaska.
Well, and to your point, Chaska is part of Eastern Carver County Schools. So, you know, if you are a student in Chaska, you're part of that district. And so, I mean, I see your point too.
Sienna, do you have any thoughts?
I do not.
Okay. I think it's a worthy program, and I think it aligns with our mission. I do not, I think that we could look to them to make the final selection of books. I'm not sure that any of us have the extra time time to go through a list of over 600 books and determine which ones are the best books for the dollar. So I would empower them with our gift to make that selection without us.
You took it right out of my mouth. You know, if we trust them with our money, we might as well trust them to make the right decision with it, in my opinion. They've certainly done the work, and I don't want to have to redo it myself.
And knowing they have a committee waiting to vet the books and make sure the dollars are spent in the right way for what their mission is, I think that, you know, that just takes more work off our shoulders and has some people that are ready to jump in and help out with that.
So, Kelli, I think you're in a unique position. Perhaps you would.
I am abstaining from the conversation, and I will abstain from the vote.
Just wanted to give you the
Yep.
benefit.
Yep, thank you.
Would someone like to propose a dollar amount? And please know that pursuant to our further discussion or our recent discussion, it looks like we have approximately $625 remaining in our budget after we pay or after the bill comes through the system for the fans in the amount of $665.
And then 75 for the plaque.
And 75 for the plaque.
So I was just doing the math, that would bring us to about 550.
Right, and while they didn't specify an ask, they said one of each of the 30 books would cost, am I remembering correctly, $599 and a penny or something like that, so about $20 a book. But then they said, that's just getting off the ground, they want one of each book, so I don't think it matters that we have a 599 number. I think they'd obviously be grateful for anything. I don't think there's a target ask at this point.
And they're also approaching other groups
Right.
to help fund it too.
Right, so that was the point of my question is it better to have multiple copies of one book or one copy of every book on your list? And, you know, I don't think either way we're going to be, it's not, you know, a kid's Christmas list. We're not going to be picking the items off. So I think, again, we should decide on an appropriate amount to allocate based on our budget and what we can afford and proceed from there. I don't know if it makes sense if we're planning on $550 in our budget for the rest of the year to allocate the full amount, you know, if we have an emergency appointment, we need to buy them a t-shirt, that's $14, right? So there's things that we might want to keep some in the coffers for, but.
Nate, when does the budget start over again, January 1?
Yep.
So could we, I'm just going to throw this out there, say $599 for 2022. So in January 2022, $450, or we have more instead of just saying, well, here's 50. Do you want to make an impact in a statement by saying here's money, or do you want to say, well, here's a book, thank you for coming and speaking to us? Or do we do something different? Maybe it's not money. Do we have a book drive? Could we partner with the business and say, bring in a book, and maybe that business will donate their product or something. I don't know, I'm speaking out of the side of my head. I can tell you that with, on a personal side, how do I put this? A business I work with does a free movie put on by the fire department, and your admission is a can of food. And they pull away tubs of food. You know, could we work with a local business? I don't know who, you know, maybe McDonald's. They used to let you go in and let everyone work, and whatever proceeds were made for that hour, you were able to walk away, but could we do something like that, or ask them if they'd be willing to do something like that, or Culver's, or something, or Dunkin' Donuts, or someone, or something.
I really like that idea of getting some community event like that going, to really have people feel invested in it in some way. I feel like that could not happen within the next few months.
Right.
So my,
Or could it? And I put it
in
this way,
my
it
life, it
doesn't,
couldn't.
but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be us. Could we support something that they do? And I don't know their schedule, and I don't know what groups are involved, but could some of the kids be involved within it, and we just support it? So we just use Human Rights Commission. If one of us can make it, I'll be there, I'll stand there, I'll do it. I'll close my business down, I'll be there, I'll stand by it. Could we do something like that? We can move how do I put this? It is possible to do it. If we can find someone to do it, if they're willing to do that as well and participate, it's possible. Especially during the holiday time, it's the best time because everyone is in the giving mood. We're all spending a lot of money for Christmas. Everyone wants to give. So that's my 2 cents. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to feel bad if everyone, you know, doesn't agree or disagree or doesn't want to do it. I just threw that out there.
I think it's a great idea, right? We are all about community involvement. You have more experience with it, but in my envisionment, I'm more aligned with Commissioner Welbert as far as the timeline of it, because it's such a targeted book list. It's not just bring a book, it's bring one of these vetted books off the list, and to distribute that list, get people to say, yes, I want to do this, order them, receive them, and then bring them to a distribution point. Just that in itself is a couple-week process. And then figuring out how we want to collect them, what business we want to partner with, get a business to sign and be like, yes, we'll grant a discounted rate for someone that brings a book. I mean, you might move it, if you think it's possible, that's great. I am hesitant, but I don't have the personal experience to speak one way or the other to it. I'm not doubting you.
I'm not saying you are, I'm just
trying to think it through. It's
Yep.
especially with the holidays, right? It's a tough time to distribute. Like, I don't even know how we distribute the list, you know? Say it's Culver's, to use your example. We'd get Culver's to sign on, and then everybody that comes into the restaurant or goes through the drive-thru, they get a flyer handed out to them saying, we're doing a book drive starting November 15th through December 15th. Here's the list of books we need you to bring in. If you do so, we'll give you a free Happy Meal or something like that. I think the logistics, it's a great idea. I think the logistics need to be worked out, though.
What about, okay, I'm going to think things out loud too right now.
Yeah.
What about if we did something like what you proposed, Martin? But thinking about the timeline, what if we did it around Martin Luther King Day as a day of service type thing and try to have a couple months so that we could get things in order, you know, and then have a community day of service where you're involved somehow by either bringing in books and getting a Happy Meal or, you know, including it somehow in some way. But in the meantime, we have $600 left in our budget with no events planned for the rest of this year. Could we allocate some of those dollars because we know those are going to help get some of the books?
Yeah, I agree. It's not an either or, right?
Right.
Well, how much is actually left?
The answer is a little bit of that depends. So if we are to include, well, we need to account for the fan cost, right? The $665.
Right.
The $75 could either, I think we can time it to either apply this year's budget or next year's budget. I think there's, so, but if we were to include that in this year's budget, we have 550. If we weren't to include that, then that gives us, what, 625?
But
So-
if we have $550 and we lose it if we don't spend it by December 31st.
That's right. Doesn't
And
matter.
we just asked or recommended to city council to increase our budget for next year. So if we're going to leave money on the table this year, I think it's not fair to keep asking for a raise in the amount of money that we get for our budget.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
So we have a meeting in November. I might suggest that we ask Ms. Brenny to shoot us sort of an actual proposal, like what books they're looking at, who else they are reaching out to, sort of what their overall budget might be, whether to get the money, if money was approved today or November. I don't think it fundamentally changes. We certainly will have a better sense of what, if any, other costs we might face before the end of the year, and then maybe folks have more information about what those books are and what the total ask is of the community for this entire project, and talk about that next month. It's just a thought.
Or an alternate suggestion, if we don't want to carry a single cent over, is we agree that we're just going to give the balance of our budget on December 30th in the form of one check at that point. I don't know if we can do that, but we could say whatever we have left over in 2021's budget, we just kick it over at that time.
Is that allowed?
We might
I
have
don't-
to make that decision before December 31st.
Correct.
Yeah, so why don't, if that's the direction you want to go, why don't we, I'm kind of liking the suggestion of the November agenda item. And then I can sort of do some work with our finance group to kind of say, okay, how's the best way to approach this? And just make sure that we're going about it the right way. I think it is possible. I'm not really too worried about that, but just the mechanics of it. And so we can make that decision then at the November meeting on the amount, whatever. I think it would be nice to get a formal proposal like you're suggesting, Kelli. I also would suggest, because I do think, Martin's bringing up some good thoughts here, and how do we, not only take the, whatever dollar amount is available, but also maybe help them build their effort and gain momentum and involve the community in a broader way. Maybe that's something that between now and then, I or one of the committees or something could take on, and also as we're reaching out to Ms. Brenny to talk about not only the possible contribution, what their formal ask is, but also is there a way to partner in a more broad sense? Whether it be a fund drive and just supporting them in doing that, or a book drive physically. I think there's different ways that could look, different places that could happen. Because I do know that Culver's has done things in the past for community groups. I've seen things happen at Cub Foods with bagging and trying to get tips. There's different ways to go about that. So maybe it'd be a good thing to kind of kick around with them as the group that would be benefiting from that work, to see how can we maybe work together and help them with that cause.
And we could probably highlight some of the books that they need, or I don't know if we could allow them to accept donations at the MLK event too, if we highlight what the project is.
Yep.
The other opportunity is Hooked on Books. That generally happens in February of each year, and I know that the Rotary, because the Rotary always gives away free books to children at that event, because I always stand behind the counter with my husband. So I think that would be another great way, another avenue for us to kind of expand this opportunity to partner with them.
Maybe not this year, though, because it's going to be virtual again.
Yeah,
It's gonna
not
look
this year,
different.
but
Yeah, it's going to look different this year, but I agree that that is a ready-made opportunity for raising awareness.
Yeah.
And
so let's postpone this discussion until November.
We're going to postpone the whole thing or the budgetary discussion? 'Cause I
the
think-
budgetary discussion.
Yeah, some of the items, like, should we allow them to seek funds at the MLK breakfast? I think we could put that in the MLK committee.
I think
right?
that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Okay, I'll write it down.
Thank you. And I think that, because I think I would hesitate just to say, bring a book, because they want specific books. But we'll get the list, we'll get a formal proposal from them, and we'll consider it in November for the financial impact on our commission.
Yeah, I think that again, let's table it, I'm sorry, but participating in fundraising might be a lot easier than participating in a book drive when it's a specific book list that they're after. So.
I agree. Also, under new business.
Oh, wait, Kelly, are you reaching out to Miss Brenny?
I will.
Oh, you will, okay, I didn't do that part.
Right.
I was writing, sorry.
No, no, I'll do that. Also, under new business, you have copies of various items. The first one is Marnita's Table. You'll recall that the city of Chaska hosted Marnita's Table, and our commission participated with them. Now it's being suggested or engaged by Carver County, so that's coming up on November 4th. Shining the Light on Homelessness, that is being sponsored on November 13th. It's an opportunity to sleep out and/or at least stay out for a long period of time on November 13th, with funds being utilized by His House Foundation. The CAP agency that serves Carver County is moving, and they're relocating their offices in Shakopee, so you have a change in address there if you're interested. Love Inc., which was a recipient of the Human Rights Award several years ago, is sponsoring 2 events. One is a winter wear coat drive. The other is they'll be delivering Thanksgiving dinners in both eastern Carver County and serving western Carver County on November 20th. Registration has to be done through their telephone number 448-3261. The Steiner Kelting Mental Wellness Facility has officially opened. This is a great addition to our community. I believe that there are 8 participants there at the present time. They have the capacity to serve 12 individuals. So obviously a need is being fulfilled as we speak. And that's, just like I said, a great opportunity for our community. And the last thing is the Breel House, and this is a new program. It's a women's recovery home that's just going to be opening in Waconia, that I thought you might share the good news about that. Is there any other business that needs to come before us?
I have a couple of items.
Yes, please.
To share. So, Commissioner Carlson mentioned the Marnita's Table event that's coming up. That is an initiative that's part of an event, I guess it's part of a broader initiative that Carver County is launching called, I've got the
Communities of
acronym.
Belonging.
Communities of Belonging, yes, thank you. And so that is just getting started, and I think my understanding is that the intention is for Carver County Public Health sort of serving as a lead in that, to bring together the communities that they serve, and whether it be staff or volunteers that are, related to the various organizations, to talk about how do we sort of address, I think, the loneliness and isolation that has come even more to light, I guess, as a result of COVID. I think that, loneliness and isolation is not a new concept, but I think COVID, like many things, put a magnifying glass on that idea. And so, I guess my thought, or the thing is, I want to make you aware of this, but also wondering whether the Human Rights Commission feels that it would be useful for maybe one of you to be, directly involved on that group. So something to think about. I don't think that we have to come to a conclusion tonight unless if someone wants to put that forward. I could definitely
Just for
get in touch with
disclosure,
Pat
I'm-
Stieg, who's the staff point person there,
Right.
and let him know. So,
I already am serving or am a member of this group. You too? Yeah.
So is there room for one more, or no? Yes, so we can have 3, right?
Yeah, when I'm there, I'm representing Carver County Community Development, so feel free to represent the Human Rights Commission.
Okay, well, I was just going to say I was involved with some of the earlier
Yep.
planning groups and thoroughly enjoyed it. I have signed up to be attending the next event. It is virtual this time, and it's really cool because they will either deliver a meal to your house the night of the event, or when you check in, then they will send you a gift card to use at a later date for a meal for your family. So the food and fellowship aspect is still very much a part of this conversation, which I think just really added to it when I've been to the other events. I would love to serve on that committee if there's room.
I can let Pat know that you're interested in serving as sort of the rep for the Human Rights Commission. I know a couple of you are involved already, but it sounds like maybe you're there representing other organizations. So I will do that. And then the other thing I want to make you aware of is that the community center, Parks and Rec, Chaska Community Center, is going to be initiating a facility planning effort. And this will be kicking off early next year. And so the idea here is that the community center is now 30 years old. And so what should the next 30 years look like? And what are the sort of things that that building will need to do to appropriately serve the community for its next 30 years or next generation? And so to look at the building as a physical structure and how it's currently, what it presents today, and come up with what sort of investment needs to be made in that building going into the future. So part of that will be putting together an advisory committee. And so it'll be, some representatives of the community at large, membership of the community center, representatives from council, representatives from various boards and commissions that serve the city, and trying to get, diverse voices at the table to help us think through what that building's going to need to do. And so I just throw that out there so that you all can be thinking about that. I think we will be looking for someone from the Human Rights Commission to serve on that committee. And so I think more details to come. I'm not seeking an answer tonight, but just want you to, maybe be thinking about that, whether that's something that you have interest in. I don't know details quite yet about time commitment, frequency and how many, but those are things that'll be coming forward here, hopefully in the next couple months. Any questions or thoughts about that? Okay. That's all I have.
Our next meeting date is November 18th, 2021. Please mark your calendar, and then the December 16th meeting date. And Kelli, do you have any announcements?
I just want to remind folks that this Tuesday, November 2nd, is an important election for the Eastern Carver County School District. And if you have not yet learned more about what the school district is asking, ECCSvote.org is the website that has all the referendum information. We just encourage folks to get informed and go vote.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I was just going to say, too, that next Sunday on the 7th, I believe. I am going to be attending the performance of the White Privilege performance that we had talked about with Chain Reaction Theater Company. They found places to do the performance, but as I was looking at their website, I found out they do a show every year that's based on some, you know, social issue or a current event or something. And so this may be something that Chaska wants to look at next year again. I know there's tickets still available for the performance. It's at Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Eden Prairie. It's like 3 in the afternoon. So I'm going with another group, but I'm excited to see what they have to offer since we heard about it and never came to fruition here, so.
Great. We'll look forward to your feedback. Martin, anything?
No, ma'am.
Kaylee? Sienna?
I have a motion to adjourn, if you want that.
I would entertain that.
Yeah, I'll throw that one out there then.
Okay, great. Is there a second? Having had no other business?
I'll second it.
Excellent. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.